about this. One of the things this has thrown up is kind of etiquette. So we've been talking about a growing number of women who say they've been contacted by people like delivery riders or cab drivers. We've had texts from men who have said that they've been contacted several times by customers who are female, asking if they want to go for a drink, flirtatious messages, which are unsolicited and unwanted. What is it? Opportunistic or just completely inappropriate? Where is the line between someone being confident and approaching you and someone being creepy and approaching you? Well, Alex Mellor-Brook is a dating and relationship coach, matchmaker and co-founder of the dating service Select Personal Introductions. Alex, hello.
Hiya.
Hi. I don't know how much you've heard of the conversations we've been having in the last hour or so, but it comes down to, and we've been having a lot of texts. Here's an example. Here's one from Ruth who says, I do feel for the women who have been approached approached in an unsolicited way. I do feel for the women, it's creepy. But I think men need to be taught the correct way to respectfully approach a woman, especially in the online dating age. Do you think that's a problem at the moment, Alex?
Yeah, I think it's quite a big problem. And I think it's not just on kind of the dating scene. It crosses the dating apps, the the online sites, but also covers social media as well. I mean, Emily Atack's a prime example of this. I know I was discussing this, and it's about somebody. We look at boundaries. Everybody has boundaries in the sense of how you communicate, what you feel you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. And I think what you have to understand is when you send a message, how is that going to be perceived by the other person? So it's okay being confident and asking somebody out, but again, how you do that you're going to have to really think about how it's going to be perceived by the other person, because again, you don't know what experience that other person has had in their life. So if they have had unsolicited and unprovoked messages, and also images that come through as well, which are quite horrifying. I've sat there in face-to-face interviews with clients who have tried online or social media, and they're showing me these messages that are coming through. And as a guy, I'm quite horrified because they just are unwarranted. And it is about educating. And I think right now, at the moment, there is it's almost like it's unfiltered. So people just think, I can send anything, I can say anything, I do anything. They don't know who I am, so there's no comeback. I suppose the point is, would you say that to that person if you were stood right in front of them?
But why don't people understand that now? I genuinely, I mean, is it because we're online at the moment, and you're missing those kind of personal interactions? I mean, why does Dominic in Lymington have to explain, Naga, it's different from saying hello to someone at a bar? If a stranger asked you at a bar for your name, address, phone number, work address, email, you'd be pretty freaked out. Why do people not get that being online?
Because they're hiding behind the online scenario. They're not actually presenting themselves. They can present something else other than themselves because they're not standing in front of that person. That's the key thing. So they will, as I said, they will say or do anything they want. And I think what you also have to remember now is dating is so diverse in the sense of, you have people who want to meet, who want to have a drink to get to know somebody, maybe to start a relationship. But there are other people who just want to date. And they just like the fact of never having that attachment, but just dating different people. Some people like the effect of dating somebody new. They like that buzz, that testosterone, that endorphin release. Other people have other reasons that I think are quite apparent, which we're talking about. So they want to go from A to B. It's more a physical exchange that they want. And
oh, we're struggling with your line, Alex. Just say that bit again, the last 5 seconds.
Sorry. So they will say or do anything to get that physical result that they're after, that kind of connection. So that's what you have. So you have a multitude of people that are sending different messages, and unfortunately, the people who may be genuine about trying to connect with somebody will also get put into that pot of people who are just being too explicit and they don't care.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit of advice then. Steve in Leeds says, this issue does sound quite disturbing, what we were talking about earlier, this breach of GDPR. However, there is a bit of a problem. We're not allowed to date people at work anymore. We're not allowed to approach anybody that we don't know anymore. Is it any wonder if fewer people are in relationships? Yes, there is online dating, but again, we hear horror stories about that. Discuss.
It's hard. And again, with people working from home, it's making it even harder. And this is why we do what we do at Select Personal Introductions, in the sense of we are interviewing all our clients. We vet them. We say, prove who you are. We do a digital footprint on them to make sure that person is legitimate, so that when we're introducing two people, they know that has been done.
Indeed, but not everyone can afford that kind of service, can they? Or have the time for that. So they're kind of, they do use the online dating apps and everything. Yeah. What's the basic? Let's start from the very basic, the old-fashioned scenarios, shall we? You're in a bar, in a coffee shop. You like the look of someone. How do you approach them without freaking them out?
I think you've just got to go up and talk to them, maybe introduce yourself, smile, be disarming a little bit, maybe compliment them on something, but whether that's how they look. But you've got to be genuine with that person. You've got to think, how would I want to be approached if I was stood at that bar? And I think if you can get that in your head, and not be too overzealous. Again, everybody's very different on how they are. Some people are extremely confident, may come across as overconfident.
Do you give them a get out straight away? Do you, because I would think something like, hi, really like your scarf or something like that. Is it okay to chat to you? Is that too forward? I don't know. I haven't dated for ages.
Well, it's not. At the end of the day, you have to, when you're in a relationship, you're going to be vulnerable, in the sense of you're letting your guard down, you're expressing your emotions. And at this stage, you have to put that forward in the sense of, yeah, this is me. I just saw you. I thought you look fantastic. I loved your scarf, and I just wondered if you would like to have a chat. If that person says no, then you go, okay, thank you very much, and leave. Yes, it is about giving them that opening. It's about not being too forward, not being too much in their face, but it's about approaching them so that you're going to make that other person feel comfortable. And that's the same with it, whether it's a face-to-face situation or whether it's a digital situation, in the sense of if you're sending somebody a message.
Is there anything wrong with getting in touch with someone who doesn't know you, but you have seen them? So someone's message saying, it's a tricky boundary in regards to this new digital age. We hear terms like they slid into my DMs, which has led to people getting into relationships. While common sense should apply overall, the online world is a complete blur and difficult to differentiate at times. People need educating. So one of the examples was that, some listeners have said, do not accept Facebook requests from someone you don't know. Yeah. But then equally, if you're on the other side and have seen someone you really like, or, they've had a conversation, you just don't happen, and you like the way they sound, you like their sense of humour, and you want to get to know them, but there's no common kind of physical ground, but you can see them online. Is that wrong? Is that creepy?
In a sense, again, it's how you approach it.
And how you get the number, of course. Obviously, do not get it through your business if they've given their details.
No, that's right. Yes, and maybe start that conversation so that if you are meeting on social media, the great thing is if you can access some of that social media to say, yes, actually, this person looks legit. I can see some of the friends. It's always hard because, again, if we go back a number of decades, you'd always be introduced by a friend. Oh, this is such and such a body. This is Dave. This is Julie, or whoever it is. And that always helps because it breaks the ice and it gives that introduction. So you're almost being invited to make that connection. I know the one thing that I always advise when I'm working with clients is if you have made a little bit of communication and you're not quite sure before actually seeing that person face to face, I always say use what we call zero dating. So that's taking something like FaceTime, so it's visual, so you can have that conversation. You can see, yes, they do look like some of their social media photographs. They are legitimate. You can get a clear idea of that. It's a short kind of time, 20 minutes. You can probably get a few answered, a few questions that you have answered, but it's not an interrogation. It's about reaching out. It's about communicating. It's about being honest, but not too honest. You don't need to give too much information. We talk about GDPR. Well, don't give too much information about yourself away. See how you two connect. But again, keep yourself safe. Keep it brief. But sliding into DMs is hard. I can understand why people do it. But again, how are you going to approach that person? What are you going to put in writing? Because what you write and what is read will be very different. And you have to consider that. And you have to consider what the other person feel, how they may feel about that. So as you were saying before, Naga, that way of giving them a get out is perfect, because that just takes a little